One day, I produced a record from a Danish piano player called Nils Landoki, and it was called High Tech Haiku. And he wanted me to sing a song, so I said, you know, I just wrote this song about my father, who passed away recently, and it's called Parole Per Mio Padre, a word to my father. And Pino Daniele, who's gone now, but wrote the lyrics. I said, would you like? I'd like to do a classical song on your record. And I did it. And it turned out nicely. And somehow, some way, the Vatican heard that song. I don't know how, but they did. And so I got a call one Sunday morning, very early. My wife and I were having breakfast. It was 7:30 in the morning, and I came downstairs to the office, and I usually don't get a call Sunday morning. And it was a man with an Italian accent, and I cursed the phone because I thought it was one of my Toronto friends. His name is Vito. And I F you, Vito, and I said, I said, it's a bad joke. It's too early. And so the phone rang again, and the voice said, please don't swear at me. It ended up being one of the bishops from the Vatican. And he said that Pope John Paul would like you to sing this song at his jubilation or as Christmas celebration. And so they invited the whole family. Me, Patricia, and Anton went to Rome. We all had an audience with Pope John Paul. Wow. The really wonderful thing about it is that I got to study a little bit about his life, his accomplishments, his poetry, some of his plays, but his commitment during World War II, his commitment to free Poland from communism, all those things. And so meeting him was a great honor. And of course, he was stricken with Parkinson's very deeply by that time, but still, you know, the light in his eye was very clear. So it was a high moment, you know, a peak moment, and a lot of artists there. Some didn't quite appreciate the invite in the way they should have. Just saw it as a guy with a beanie cap and with white pajamas or something like that, you know, head of a party or something like that. I know I always had my misgivings about institutionalized church, but I also saw that Pope John Paul transcended that in many ways, because his life was more than his papal authority. You know, he was willing to really step out and go out on a limb and say what he believed in, and basically understood that freedom, the freedom of expression, freedom to dig, freedom to uncover, freedom to say what you want to say, freedom to make a mistake, freedom to be a fool, was the only way humans can evolve. And so for me, I mean, let me tell you, Michael, I mean, 80% of what I wrote and recorded, you know, is either mediocre or less. But there is that 20% that kept pushing me as though this is really good, and evolved me as a human being. But I needed to be able to experiment and to put it on paper or put it on record and have it come back to me and have it swish around a few times for me only years later to say, okay, this is what was good about it and this was what wasn't good about it. And I know I'm saying it in a bit of a roundabout way, but my conversation with John Paul was really about that. That, you know, he said in many words, keep striving. And that's what he did. And that's at least partly why I was very happy to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those, you know, lifetime moments that, you know, you're very lucky to get to experience.
Well, it would have just been a peak kind of experience to be at the Vatican, to check it out. To, you know, every square inch of that building is a piece of art. To be invited to stay in a nice hotel room, eat nice food, and be with artists, that would have been good enough. But the 10 minutes that I spent with Pope John Paul, my wife spent 15 minutes with him. The conversations were very deep, though very short. And when you know that someone with such a burden on his shoulders that that particular pope had. All popes have, but that one had at that time. It felt like the information coming from him was really worthwhile keeping.
When you were doing the performance,
Yeah.
what was that like? What was going through your mind, and what were you experiencing when you were there doing?
Unfortunately, I had contracted such a terrible flu that my temperature was 103 when I was performing.
Oh wow!
And my voice was totally closed up, and they actually gave me a really powerful cortisone steroid shot, and it opened my voice for about 5 minutes. And you can Google that performance, me at the Vatican. I think I sang okay, but as soon as I got off stage, I collapsed, and I was in bed for I think 10 days. My wife took me to Gubbio, which is central Italy, medieval Italy. We stayed in a little room there. I didn't get out of bed for 10 days.
Wow.
And it was really, really bad. But I had the choice. You know, they told me, look, 100 million people will be watching. And I said, you know, there's some really high, powerful notes in Parole Per Mio Padre. I don't know if I can do them. You know, I'm so sick. And then someone said, well, you can't miss this opportunity. And I said, if I take the opportunity and blow it, that'll be me blowing it in front of 100 million people, because it was live. It wasn't taped. They couldn't take it out of the show. So I just rolled the dice, and it was a little bit of that moment, like in that church before seeing Herb Alpert, that I really went into a quiet place, and I just decided, okay, I'll do it. Plus the steroid shot helped.
Yeah.